Today we will be looking at chapter 22 of fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's do a short invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Adhyanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadhaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prachatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So please bear with me today. Developed a little bit of cold. We can manage. So please raise your hand if you're in a position to read, so that I can pick you up appropriately. So chapter 22, that's it.
I can.
Okay, I'm just checking 1 second. Yeah. So we have, okay, so, yeah, let us, let's go with Meena Jatani Mataji. First 16 verses from this chapter, please.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. So chapter 22, Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the four Kumaras. Text 1, Maitreya Vacha. Translation. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prithu, the four Kumaras, who were as bright as the sun.
You're muted, we can't hear you. Hare Krishna. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Prabhuji.
Oh, so there may be a problem from my side.
Can the others hear me?
Okay, so there must be a problem from my side. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear Prabhu.
Yes, yes, Mataji, we can hear you.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, thank you. Translation. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prithu, the four Kumaras, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. Text 2. Seeing the growing effulgence of the four Kumaras, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Text 3. Seeing the four Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore, the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Text. When the great sages accepted their reception, according to the instructions of the Shastras, and finally took their seats offered by the king, influenced by the glories of the sages, immediately bowed down. Thus he worshipped the four Kumaras. Text 5. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumaras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Text 6. The four great sages were elder to Lord Shiva, and when they were seated on the golden throne, they appeared just like fire blazing on an altar. Maharaj Prithu, out of his great gentleness and respect for them, began to speak with great restraint as follows. Text 7. King Prithu spoke. My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Text 8. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as their death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Text 9. Prithu Maharaj continued, although you are traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the Supersoul, although he is within everyone's heart as a witness of everything. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the Supersoul. Text 10. A person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants were engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. Text 11. On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and where there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. Text 12. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the 4 Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, from the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children. Text 13. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Text 14. Prithu Maharaj continued, my dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. Text 15. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. Text 16. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his paths and passers, and for this special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Sorry, please bear with me. I don't know, my internet connection is playing up today. Please bear with me. Thank you, Meena Mataji, for nicely reading it out. So this chapter is entitled Prithu Maharaj Meeting with 4 Kumaras. So in the previous chapter, we had seen how Prithu Maharaj decided to perform another sacrifice. Yes, and where in that sacrifice, when everyone gathered, the saintly people and all the subjects gathered, that time Prithu Maharaj had instructed the subjects. This is the duty of a king, or any what should I say? Any person who has some dependents. It is the duty of that person to deliver their dependents, like parent, teacher, leader, a demigod. So their duty is to deliver their subjects or dependents. So it is the duty of a king to instruct the subjects appropriately, so that they can be delivered at the end of their life. So Prithu Maharaj instructed them, saying, engage in your duty and at the same time worship the Supreme Lord. And then he also said, instructed the subjects that they should worship, they should respect the saintly people, Brahmanas or devotees of the Lord. And they should feed the devotees of the Lord, because Lord actually doesn't very much enjoy when offered in the fire sacrifice. Foodstuffs are offered in the fire sacrifice, but when you feed the devotees of the Lord, he actually eats through the mouth of devotees, like that. So basically, the summary of entire 21st chapter is instructions to the subjects by Prithu Maharaj. And this he did in the presence of Brahmanas. And in case if there were any errors, the Brahmanas could correct. And that is the ideal duty of parent or a teacher or an administrator. Properly instruct their dependents. And after instructing, the subjects were very happy. The people were very happy, and they were praising, and we are very fortunate, because you removed our ignorance. You're like our father, and like this, they were praying the king in the previous chapter. So now we can see here. So it's very interesting. Like Brahmaji came first. Lord Brahma came and requested Prithu to stop his 100th sacrifice. After Prithu had stopped the 100th sacrifice, Lord Vishnu, along with Lord Shiva and other saintly people came, and Lord Vishnu was very pleased with him, and he brought Indra along with him, and he gave audience to Prithu Maharaj. He wanted to leave, but he was so captivated by the devotion of King Prithu, and so he asked, Lord Vishnu asked King Prithu to ask for a benediction. Of course, King Prithu had, recited so many wonderful prayers, and at the end, King Prithu said, "My Lord, give me the benediction you think is the best for me, because I'm like a child, I don't know anything." So Lord Brahma, then Lord Vishnu, along with Lord Shiva and other people. Now, so King Prithu is blessed with the audience of 4 Kumaras. So these Kumaras came to the palace of King Prithu. They were very bright, and we know that these Kumaras were the sons of Lord Brahma. And they decided to remain as celibates They were the firstborn beings in this day of Brahma. In this day of Brahma, they were the firstborn beings. They decided to remain as celibates. So King Prithu, he was extremely pleased to see them, and he eagerly received them, and offered elevated seat, and according to the instructions of the Shastras, he bowed down and he washed their feet, and he took that water and sprinkled it over on his head and also his family members. So let me show a picture of this, if possible. So see here, King Prithu is washing the lotus feet of Kumaras and collecting that water in a bowl, and he will use that. This will the this he will use to sprinkle. So this is another picture. So they were seated very nicely, received nicely, and seated in an elevated asan or the sitting place, and they were garlanded. Yeah, this is the nice way. This is the wonderful etiquette. We see that even Krishna does this when Narada Muni comes to see him in Dwaraka. He does the same. He washes the feet of Narada Muni. Although Narada is his devotee, but Krishna is setting an ideal exemplary behavior. And we also see when Sudama, his friend, Brahmana Sudama Vipra, so when he visited Dwaraka, Lord Krishna also did the same reception and welcome to Sudama. So that's how the saintly people should be treated. So then King Prithu said, he felt he was very lucky. My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult even for the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. So in text 7, King Prithu says, that is, he didn't know what he had performed, what kind of pious activity he had performed, such that, he got the association of these saintly people, 4 Kumaras. So this is the real wealth. Association with saintly people is the real wealth. So while I was reading it, I was thinking that we don't know. We are also very fortunate to come in contact with the association of Prabhupada, ISKCON, and Prabhupada books. We don't know what we had done in the past. You think so? When you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, when you read the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, when you read this Krishna book, and you also think, just by see, like now King Prithu was saying that. So while reading, I was also thinking that we are also very fortunate. We didn't know what we had done, but I think we should make we should take full advantage of this association. We should never take it lightly. That was my realization there. So great, even King Prithu is glorifying, saying that he didn't know what he had done to get the association of saintly people. So just imagine, like, think for a moment, just for a moment, some or other we were wondering and what kind of activities we were engaged in. We had no goal in life. So all that thing, now we have very proper goal. We have a goal, clear goal in life. We have hope in life. These materialistic people, however much they make, they have to suffer at the end. That is guaranteed. But we have hope. Every passing day, we are getting one day closer to Krishna. One day closer to Krishna. So thank you, Prabhupada, for giving us this wonderful literature. And thank you for engaging us in this wonderful way. Eternally grateful to you. So then, so he says, like, just by seeing, by associating with saintly people like yourself, one can achieve the favor of the Supreme Lord. We all know that by the association of devotees only, we can achieve the Supreme Lord. Common people, they can't know you very well. Common people, the materialistic people, they're only interested in material things. That's why common people don't know the value of this association of saintly people like yourself. And so even though household may be very poor, but if that person receives the saintly people at their home, and they are really, really fortunate. So that's why it's important that we receive guests, Vaishnava guests at our home to sanctify the entire environment. So even though they may be poor, but if they receive a saintly person, if they treat and they welcome, they offer proper due respect to the saintly person, they are considered to be extremely fortunate. On the other hand, one may be very wealthy and, but one doesn't receive a saintly person at their home, then, what is the use? They're unfortunate, very unfortunate. So, and Prith Maharaj also mentioned that, he's glorifying, we are, you've been celibate since your birth. They've taken a vow of celibacy. Lord Brahma, we all know from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you remember. So after creating 4 Kumaras, he asked them to, create progeny. But they said, no, we would just like to remain celibates, engage in the service of the Lord. So that's how, they wanted. And in text 13, he poses a wonderful question. So the question is, can there be any good fortune to the people who are engaged in the sense gratification? This is the question. People in general, they are entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons whose only aim is sense gratification be blessed with any good fortune? So this is a proper question, isn't it? Usually when everybody want to know how can I benefit? Yes, this is the question. First, we ask for ourselves, how can I benefit? How can my family members benefit? But here, as a king, he's so compassionate, and his question is, so how can these people who are engrossed in the sense gratification be blessed with good fortune? So even if you remember, even our Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages also asked the same question. What is the ultimate benefit for the mankind? So this is a very glorious question by King Prithu. Then, he says that I'm thinking, I'm asking this question, how the common people be benefited, but I'm not asking how you are. How are you? But I know you are anyway saintly people, you'll be fine. Then in the 16th, let me see. So that was his question, and same. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. What a point it is, 16th. So it is said that the Lord has many expansions. He comes as his own devotee also. And so how can you access the Lord? Through the medium of, via medium of devotees. So here Prithu Maharaj says he expands into his devotees, in the form of his devotees, and he travels all over the world to benefit the humankind. So on that note, again, we can remember Prabhupada. He was living in Vrindavan, and he decided to course on the order of spiritual master at the age of 69. He left to Vrindavan, and he took so much pain. Those who have read a little bit of biography of Prabhupada or watched Abhay Charan movie can understand how much pain he had taken. Why do they do that? Because they don't. Common people are suffering, but they don't know they are suffering. But a saintly person can see actually that these people are suffering. It's somehow or other I must, deliver these people. So that is the wonderful, glorious, intention of our movement. Especially if you see in our movement, Prahlad Maharaj says that I don't want to live in the town, oh my Lord Narsinghdev. I don't want to go to Himalayas, but I would like to live in the town. Why? Because I can deliver these living entities. They think that they can enjoy just by sense gratification. Oh my Lord, I know very well they cannot enjoy like that. They can only be satisfied when they take shelter of your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, that's why I rather would like to live in the town where these materialistic people are there and educate them in Krishna consciousness. And that is the mood of Srila Prabhupada as well. Because of that, imagine how so much is happening. All of 15 people here tonight on the Zoom Sangha. So it's the mercy of Prabhupada. Just in one Sangha, we are talking about 15 people here. But how many Sanghas are going? How many temples were built? So how many conditioned living entities are being attracted by this wonderful movement? So all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so with that, next we will do the next section from 17 to 40, Anupama Radhika Mata.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Text 17. The great sage Maitreya continued, thus Sanat Kumara, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Prithu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. Sanat Kumara said, My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position. When there is a congregation of devotees, their discussions, questions, and answers become conclusive to both the speaker and the audience. Thus, such a meeting is beneficial for everyone's real happiness. Sanat Kumara continued, My dear King, you already have an inclination to glorify the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such attachment is very difficult to achieve. But when one has attained such unflinching faith in the Lord, it automatically cleanses lusty desires from the core of the heart. It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures, after due consideration, that the ultimate goal for the welfare of human society is detachment from the bodily concept of life and increased and steadfast attachment for Supreme Lord, who is transcendental beyond the modes of material nature. Attachment for the Supreme can be increased by practicing devotional service, inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, applying Bhakti Yoga in life, worshipping the Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These actions are pious in themselves. One has to make progress in spiritual life by not associating with persons who are simply interested in sense gratification and making money. Not only such persons, but one who associates with such persons should be avoided. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. One can be thus elevated by being disgusted with the taste for the sense enjoyment. A candidate for spiritual advancement must be non-violent, must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, must follow the regulative principles without material desire, and while following the regulative principles, should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. He should learn to tolerate them. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in the transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Upon becoming fixed in his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the grace of the spiritual master and by awakening knowledge and detachment, the living entity situated within the heart of the body and covered by the five elements burns up his material surroundings exactly as fire arising from wood burns the wood itself. When a person becomes devoid of all material desires and liberated from all material qualities, he transcends distinctions between actions executed externally and internally. At that time, the difference between the soul and the supersoul, which was existing before self-realization, is annihilated. When a dream is over, there is no longer a distinction between the dream and the dreamer. When the soul exists for sense gratification, he creates different desires, and for that reason, he becomes subjected to designations. But when one is in the transcendental position, he is no longer interested in anything except fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Only because of different causes does a person see a difference between himself and others, just as one sees the reflection of a body appearing differently manifested on water, on oil, or in a mirror. When one's mind and senses are attracted to sense objects for enjoyment, the mind becomes agitated. As a result of continually thinking of sense objects, one's real consciousness almost becomes lost like the water in a lake that is gradually sucked up by the big grass straws on its bank. When one deviates from his original consciousness, he loses the capacity to remember his previous position or recognize his present one. When remembrance is lost, all knowledge acquired is based on a false foundation. When this occurs, learned scholars consider that the soul is lost. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interest. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into species of life like those of trees and stones. Those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must associate with the mode of ignorance, and hedonistic activities are the greatest obstruction to realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last, liberation. Out of the four principles, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation has to be taken very seriously. The other three are subject to destruction by the stringent law of nature, death. We accept as blessings different states of higher life, distinguishing them from lower states of life, but we should know that such distinctions exist only in relation to the interchange of modes of material nature. Actually, these states of life have no permanent existence, for all of them will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller. Sanat Kumara advised the king, "Therefore, my dear King Prithu, try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within everyone's heart along with the individual soul in each and every body, either moving or not moving. The individual souls are fully covered by the gross material body and subtle body made of the life, air, and intelligence. The Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself as one with the cause and effect within this body, but one who has transcended the illusory energy by deliberate consideration, which clears the misconception of a snake for a rope, can understand that the Paramatma is eternally transcendental to the material creation and situated in pure internal energy. Thus, the Lord is transcendental to all material contamination. Unto him only must one surrender. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. The ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
What a nice words to stop.
Yes.
There. Oh my goodness. So 3 people have disappeared. We are reading, a lot of reading looks like. Okay. This is a very wonderful section. As after King Prithu had asked the 2 questions. What are the 2 questions? Can there be any good fortune to the living entities? And then how can they attain the ultimate benefit? So these are the questions asked by King Prithu. And after this, so Sanat Kumara, he started speaking, and he said that he was justly questioned. Sometimes we go to sadhus and we ask questions relating to our material benefit, right? So once I remember, somebody coming to Prabhupada and asking Prabhupada, can you bless him that my son gets first rank, or can you bless him, my son gets into this place or gets into that, or gets a good wife, or whatever, so these are not sort of the question that one should be asking the saintly person. But here, Prithu Maharaj is setting a wonderful example for all of us. What sort of question should be asked? If you remember Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshi. We have to approach the self-realized souls.
Prabhuji, we can't hear you.
Frozen, Prabhuji.
Sorry?
No, that's it. No, your picture froze, Prabhuji. You're back again. Yeah, it's okay now. We can hear you now, Prabhuji.
Okay. I need to see what I need to do with this connection. Yeah, so one should, inquire, make submissive inquiry and render service onto the saintly people. And then they will impart the right knowledge. And they said, you've asked a wonderful question, although you know the answer, but you've asked it. That is the greatness of King Prithu. And ultimately, they say that the bhakti, the devotion to the Supreme Lord, is the main thing. That is the. Just 1 second, can I just sort out here a few things? Yeah. So just by hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, one can develop attraction towards Krishna and detachment to the material things. The two things simultaneously happen. Just by engaging in devotional service, attraction to Krishna, and then detachment to the material things will happen. Just so, and then they also mention, what are the different things they need to do. Just worshipping of the Lord is the topmost yoga process, and regularly hear and chant the Lord's glories, and not to associate with the materialistic people. Being satisfied in the self, being non-violent, following the footsteps of great acharyas, remembering and tasting the sweetness of the excellent pastimes of the Lord. That means regularly hearing, and simple and plain living, tolerating the ups and downs. So here our, yeah, I think so, isn't it? When I read, I mean, they are slightly different. They're slightly different. I will tell you in what way. When I read, I think in the way I get some realizations, but when I hear from others, I can hear their realizations also. There is a difference, Ian Prabhu. That's a wonderful question. Yeah, because sometimes when I read something, I understand, I get one particular realization from that topic, but you may see it completely differently. So your realizations may be different. So they all will help. That's why we are always advised to hear Prabhupada as well on a daily basis. In ISKCON, we are advised that we hear Prabhupada, and we also hear our spiritual master if you are initiated or if you're aspiring one, and then hear from them. And hear other devotees who are sincerely, they may not be pure, they may not be very saintly, but if they are sincerely trying to, follow in the footsteps of Prabhupada, even though they may not be elevated, we should also hear from them. This is the order: hearing from Prabhupada, hearing from our own spiritual master, and other devotees who are sincerely trying to follow. So that's why we should also see, when we hear from people, we should see what their character is also important. And in addition to the reading, I hope that makes sense here, Prabhu. And ultimately, these two verses in this section are very important. Very, very important. 39 and 40. Let's look at 39. This is Prabhupada's very favorite verses, these two are. So these are the answers, if you remember, to the two questions. Or one question is ultimate benefit, how we can gain ultimate benefit. Prabhupada's famous verse, this one. Yat pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karma shayam gratitam ugratayanti santaha tadvanarikta matayo yatayo piruddha sroto gunastamaranam bhaja vasudevam. See, the devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna can very easily overcome the hard-knotted desire for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna. Bhaja Vasudevam, the son of Vasudeva. A simple remedy is given. We have, many times we think. So yes, I'm attending these classes, I'm trying to read, I'm chanting Hare Krishna mantra, but I still have some materialistic desires, or I'm not fully able to, perform devotion. But the remedy is that continue just by simply, doing this process, Bhaja Vasudevam, engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, can very easily overcome. We can overcome these materialistic desires. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. Only by engaging in the devotional service to Lord Krishna. However, the other people, non-devotees, jnanis and yogis, they may undergo severe austerities, but they will not be able to overcome the waves of self gratification. That reminds me the story of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was, we all know that he is actually from Muslim community, and he was chanting continuously the names of the Lord Hari, and one person being envious of his fame, because Haridas Thakur was becoming very famous. Then this person had sent a prostitute to Haridas Thakur. But Haridas Thakur, what did he do? He simply asked the prostitute to sit next to him, And once he finishes his daily quota of chanting Hare Krishna mantra, then he would be able to serve her. So she sat next to him, heard him chanting, and the night disappeared. Day came, and Haridas Thakur said, "Unfortunately, I have not finished my rounds. Come again." And this happened over 3 nights. Within 3 nights, she became pure devotee of the Lord. Pure devotee of the Lord. So even a prostitute. So here a simple recipe is given for all of us, just by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. The most difficult things becomes easy. You need not to be a great scholar. But devotional service means it is for us from hearing and reading and chanting and sincerely trying to do some service to spiritual master. This is it, not complicated at all. And let me read the next verse also, very important verse. So he says here, the ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross over because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. We are in an ocean and we are trying to swim this ocean to get to the shore. It's very extremely difficult to get to the shore of this ocean. Even if you are a great swimmer, you'll not be able to. Even without sharks, what to speak of dangerous sharks swallowing. It is such a great ocean. You will never find the shores of this ocean. The shore is the spiritual world. The water, the ocean is the material world. We are like that tiny being trying to cross this ocean to get to the shore. Even if you're an expert swimmer, but there are so many dangerous sharks which are compared to all the senses are compared to the sharks. So it would be extremely difficult to cross over. But however, if we take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, it acts as a boat, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers. So, Tvatpada potena mahatrutena kurvanti go vatsa padam bhavabdim. The entire ocean is reduced to the water containing in a calf's hoof frame. When we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, the ocean is reduced to the size of the water containing in it. Govatsa padam bhavabdim. You know this famous verse, this comes in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why Prithu Maharaj was advised that take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's how you can, cross over this difficult ocean. So let's see, we will try and the next 2 sections are they can be summarized easily. So let's read 7 verses and then we will end. I will summarize the other books. It's a big chapter. Okay. Who would like to read from 41 till 48? Whoever.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Text 41. The great sage Maitreya continued. Being thus enlightened in complete spiritual knowledge by the son of Brahma, one of the Kumaras, who was completely complete in spiritual knowledge. The king worshipped them in the following words. Verse 42. The king
Hare Krishna.
mercy,
Can you see the text?
indicating that you would come to my house and to confirm that blessing. You have all come. Text 43. My dear Brahmana, you have carried out the orders thoroughly because you are also compassionate as the Lord, the person. What shall I give? Text 44. The king continued. Therefore, my dear Brahmanas, my life
Are you able to hear Ambada
furniture,
or just
and
me?
household in my treasure are all offered unto you, completely educated according to the principles of Vedic knowledge, to be commander-in-chief, the ruler of the state, the first to chastise or prioritize the whole planet. Maharaj offered everything to the Vaishyas, and Sudras eat their food by virtue of the Brahmanas' mercy. It is the Brahmanas who enjoy their own property, clothe themselves with their own property, and give charity with their own property. Text 47. Prithu Maharaj continued, how can such persons who have rendered unlimited service by explaining the path of self-realization in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whose explanations are given for our enlightenment with complete conviction and the Vedic evidence, be repaid except by 4 pounds coining water for their satisfaction? Such great personalities can be satisfied only by their own activities, which are distributed among human society out of their unlimited mercy. Text 48. The great sage Maitreya continued, being thus worshipped by Maharaj Prithu, the 4 Kumaras, who were masters of devotional service, became very pleased. Indeed, they appeared in the sky and praised the character of the king, and everyone observed them. Text 49.
No, that's it.
Great...
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Hare Krishna.
So let us read this 47 purport. So here, after hearing from Sanat Kumar, Prithu Maharaj actually praised Sanat Kumara and Kumaras, and he says that we are not able to repay your debt for your wonderful association and instructions. If we try to repay, it's only comedy, something like comedy. It's not possible. So we will never be able to repay the debt for your association, for your wonderful instructions. Let's read that purport, and then we will end up. So it's a wonderful purport. You can just imagine, we can remember Prabhupada through this purport. Ambara, can you read?
Hare Krishna, yes. Great personalities of the material world are very eager to render welfare service to human society, but actually no one can render better service than one who distributes the knowledge of spiritual realization in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All living entities are within the clutches of the illusory energy, forgetting their real identity. They hover in the material existence, transmigrating from one body to another in search of a peaceful life. Since these living entities have very little knowledge of self-realization, they are not getting
What happened?
They are not getting any relief. Although they are very anxious to attain peace of mind, some substantial happiness, saintly persons like Kumaras, Narada, Prahlada, Janaka, Sukadeva Goswami, and Kapila Dev, as well as the followers of such authorities as the Vaishnava to humanity by disseminating knowledge of the relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity. Such knowledge is perfect benediction for
humanity.
humanity.
Are you able to hear?
No,
Maharaj,
it's breaking and it's going very fast.
Okay, so let me read this little bit here. Knowledge of Krishna is such a great gift that it is possible to repay the. It is impossible to repay the benefactor. Okay, therefore, Prithu Maharaj requested the Kumaras. Sorry, I'm reading.
Satisfied by their own benevolent activities in the life, that there was no other way to satisfy. Vinoda Patra can be divided into understood as one. Vinoda Patra, arouse laughter, and the person who tries this case.
Yeah. So, I think you are breaking up, and yeah. So basically, this verse tells us that we will never be able to repay the debt for their wonderful association and instruction. So you can go and read the purport to the text 17. And in the similar way, the last sentence is best one. The best friend and benefactor of all people is one who has awakened the humanity to its original consciousness. So we can see Prabhupada, how he is our great friend. He's trying to bring us closer to Krishna. So after that, the next section is glorifies the king's rule. So he took this knowledge he heard from Sanat Kumara and worshipped Kumaras, and then he ruled, engaging in devotional service, just like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj. So to set a wonderful example. And his qualities, he is compared to various demigods, like he was compared to moon, like he was like moon, pleasing to the celebrated, and like sun, powerful and like powerful. In Indra is like Indra, insuperable, and earth, tolerant, like earth, like tolerant. Rainfall, like satisfying everyone. So like that, he was compared to various demigods. And this is how this particular chapter ends. You can see that he's like Brahma, most powerful, lion, like fearless. So various qualities, wonderful qualities of Prithu Maharaj were given in towards the end of this chapter. So to sum up, four Kumaras have arrived to the palace of Prithu Maharaj to give their audience to Prithu Maharaj, and Maharaj Prithu received them nicely, gave them elevated seat, washed their feet, and spoken in a sweet language. And he took that water, washed with their lotus feet, and sprinkled on their on his head and the family members' head as well. And then he glorified them, saying that it is his fortune, he's very fortunate to see them. And so the real fortune of householders is to receive the saintly people at their home and inquire from their home. This was the real fortune. And then he asked two questions, how they can be ultimately. This one question is that what is the ultimate benefit, or can they be freed from the suffering? So these are the questions, two questions Prithu Maharaj asked for the people, although he knew it very well, but he wanted to hear from the lotus mouth of these saintly four Kumaras. And of course, Sanat Kumara spoke, and he said that, King, we are very pleased with your question, Although you knew it, you wanted to hear from us, and you are actually.
There's some wet wipes to go in the bin that's inside the cup. And I think
I beg your pardon? Okay. And so the answer to the questions is that engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. By engaging the devotional service, we develop detachment to the material things and develop attachment to the Lord, to Lord Krishna. So that is the remedy he had given. This ocean, this material world is compared to the ocean, and we are swimming that ocean. But if we take the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, they act as a boat, which we can, we can use that wonderful boat and cross over it. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult. So, and then Prithu Maharaj glorified them. Then he said that we will not be able to repay the debt for your wonderful association and instruction. Later, he ruled the kingdom while engaging in the devotional service. So I will have to stop there. Sorry, we went, we took a little more time today, but it's quite a big chapter, and we want to complete it today. Hare Krishna, Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Bol.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please go and read again. You will get more out of it. So many wonderful instructions are there. So please, I request everyone to go and read again.